So, friends, good afternoon to all of you. I think after this sumptuous lunch, we are all in the mood of sleeping, is it? Or all are awake? All are awake, please tell me. Okay, now I can feel that all are awake. Fine. So, friends, I will first of all begin with expressing my sincere thanks to Dr. Satish ji, the team of Ek Kadam or Madam Deepti ji from Ek Kadam or and all those who are involved in organizing this wonderful conference, the second World Conference. The first one was in Delhi in 2023, October 30 and 31st, which I attended, and this also I am attending. Uh, so I first thank to the organizers profoundly with the bottom of my heart. Friends, the topic that has been given to us is regarding curriculum reform or curriculum adaptation or curricular adaptation, whatever you may like or we may like to call it, and how to make the curriculum inclusive. I hope all of you would agree with me when I say that so far as children with visual impairment are concerned, if they don't have any other associated condition of disability, then there is no need of any change in the curriculum or the prescribed curriculum for any stage or all the stages of education, be it the primary stage, be it the middle stage, secondary, senior secondary, or the four stages that are talked in NEP 2020. Nowhere any change is required in the curriculum. But we still need some change in some places. And the places that are there, our education system in all the stages, right from the day one till the last day of the school education or even higher education, our education system is based on visual learning. The primary or predominant sense of accessing curriculum is vision. And when vision is not there, then how to access that curriculum, how to learn different activities prescribed in the curriculum, that is a question. All of us would agree that all the senses that are there give some information, but none of them gives complete information or all the information, meaning thereby that no single sense is complete in itself. Each of the five major senses have certain strengths, at the same time have certain limitations. To give an example, vision is a sense which is a holistic sense, gives information of an object or something as a whole. At the same time, it is a distant sense also. But it does not give any information about the temperature. It does not give any information about the sound. It does not give any information about the smell, taste, so on and so forth. When I say that all the senses are not, none of the sense is complete, that means some information which one sense gives, part of that can be obtained from other senses. And that part or that portion of the information that we get from the other sense compensates the loss of vision. I'll give you an example. The concept of the spices is generally gained by vision by a non-disabled person or a seeing person, whereas the same information about the spices a visually impaired or blind person can get from the sense of smell easily. This sighted person gets information about whether the onion has been fried or not, seeing the uh, frying onion on in the pan on the fire. A blind person can get the same information from smell. So what we need is to train our congenitally blind child or a child who lost his vision at an early age of say 2 years, 3 years or so. And as one particular very senior, very eminent educationist who worked in the field of education of the visually impaired for 60 years said, the amount of success of a blind person in the field of education, in learning, depends largely on the amount of training that he gets in developing his or her remaining senses. Remaining senses means sense of audition, sense of touch, sense of smell, taste, kinesthesis, etc., etc. And more training he gets, more experience he gets, better education he can receive. Therefore, as a teacher, what we have to do is, when we talk about the change in curriculum or anything, we should first of all think of various activities that we can organize, we can arrange in a regular school or be it in a special school, by which a child with visual impairment can develop his remaining senses and proficiency in using those senses to access the environment. Secondly, when we say that we don't need any change in curriculum, we do need change in transactional methodologies, teaching methodology, pedagogy, and all that. And how we need, I'll give you an example. In a sighted child learns by seeing the picture of an object. A blind child will have to learn the same object, the concept of the same object, using three-dimensional models, and if possible, the real three-dimensional object. And if we can provide that, the child will be able to understand that, learn that object, the concept of that object, and it will be, an understanding will be at par with the visual learning. That is scientifically proved fact. There are umpteen number of researches carried out in Europe and US, and to some extent in this country also, in our country also, which say that the learning, the understanding of a visually impaired child and a non-disabled child is at par. To similar about an object, if the alternative learning material is used or provided to a child with visual impairment. So, keeping all these things in mind, I would request my three learned panelists to give their views, because I have not prepared any list of questions. I don't want to go question wise, but still, as other sessions we had questions, etc., I will also follow the same procedure. So, any of them, if they, he or she would like to talk about what modifications, adaptations, changes, additions would we need to make learning of mathematics and science feasible, possible for children with visual impairment in regular schools or special schools or both? So, who would like to talk about that? Can anybody tell me from these three?
I'll pick that question.
You will take this? Okay, please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Will you take this
I
mic?
think it's on.
Or you have different one?
Yes, sir, I have a different.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I've experienced a method called pomegranate. So I know we all have had food now, and I'm talking of roots. And before I begin, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Pannaga Babu. Started my career as a general educator. Later, I saw that the learning needs are different, and my method is I'm prepared with only one method per class, and somewhere I'm not meeting that. So I upskilled myself to a special educator and began an inclusive journey on education, not as a special educator itself. So I am 5 feet 10 inches tall, quite hefty, big framed woman in my early 40s. And this height and weight has given me the privilege to throw my voice like a shot put, which I used to play, so that I can be a voice for inclusivity. And I can throw, even without the mic, everyone sitting in the last row can hear me. Okay? I take this as an advantage, and I was not this heavier before. And disability or different needs can happen to any of us at any part of our life. This happened to me. I took this career more seriously when I became differently abled, when I lost my ankle's flexibility to more than 90%. I understood what a child with locomotor or a CP goes through in my class more than what I envisioned before. So, to address your question, sir, earlier today morning we've discussed about different tools, technology, different methods, process of learning, all that will fit into only when we have the right curriculum and the right facilitator to address the curriculum. So the curriculum needs to be more expanded, and it should be more core curriculum, but not dilute the entire curriculum. The in-depth concept has to be stimulated with keeping all the vernacular needs of the classroom, including the visually impaired, and the teaching learning materials that we bring design in the classroom should be multisensorial. This will add up to the UDL, which my co-panelist would like to address. Thank you.
Well, friends, what she has told, I fully agree with that. But any of the remaining two would like to talk as to what particular things need to be done if we have to promote teaching learning of mathematics and science, which is an essential component of our school curriculum for our children with visual impairment, so that they acquire these mathematical and science concepts, which their seeing counterparts do acquire. Anybody would like to add something or would say something?
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, Mittal sir. I'm Jaynifer here, special educator from Delhi Public School, Bangalore North. So I take this opportunity to thank Kadam or for giving me this opportunity. First of all, when I speak about curriculum adaptation, it is all in the hands of the teacher. I will not stick on to one disability, because being an inclusive school and working with diverse children, as a teacher, what I understand is I have 40 children in my class. First 10 children do not need my explanation or my teaching. they are self-sufficient in their learning. The next 20, if I take, they need me only to clarify their doubts. The next 30, the third set, is I need to motivate them and I need to help them to achieve the academic level of performance what they are expected to perform. The last 10 set of children is the one whom a teacher should address to, their needs, because they are the special children to whom a teacher should attend to. I might have children with SLD, I might have children with low vision, children with mental impairment, the last 10 fall under this category of CWSL. As a teacher, when I understand their academic needs and social emotional needs, whatever is that, my focus is to bring down the toughest thing and I make it so simple so that the rest 30 also understands the concept in a very easy manner. And as a teacher, I should know the child precisely. KYC, what I call. So basically, I'm here to share my experience as a teacher. I should understand what the needs of my children are, what family setup they are into, who are the siblings, what are the parents doing, what is their socio-emotional, social background, how are they when they come to school, all that I should know it. When I know, it is easy for me to connect with the child. Once the child trusts me and have a good connect with me, the child grows, the child advances in his academics. And when it comes to science, math, whatever it is, what I do is, being a CBSE school, science focuses on 80 marks question paper. So I train the child to do all the objective type questions really well. When I focus on that, teaching the objective type questions, I help the child to secure 20 out of 30 here. Secondly, the question paper has picture-based questions. So when I explain the picture, when I bring 3D model, or when I help a visually impaired child learn the picture, it is easy for the child to understand. If not, CBSE also gives a provision of exchanging the question with a subjective question. So the picture will be taken away from the question paper and a substitute question is added there. And so a child with any kind of disability, once we give the skeleton of the question paper to the child and prepare the child in such a way he or she can get 30 to 40 marks in a regular curriculum. And as a teacher, I should also understand the triangle of students' level of performance. The base being what all children should learn. Okay, the second is what most of the children should learn, and the third, the top of the pyramid, says what very few children can learn. That is the children with maybe the gifted children, the children who have a very high order of thinking. So when as a teacher I understand this, I can adapt the curriculum to the children in the whole classroom. Secondly, when we talk about math, same, CBSE has two types of math question papers. One is basic and the other one is advanced. So what we do in our school is we don't train the children to appear for both the question papers. So the child is here taught in the similar way. But when it comes to the exam, the child getting the simple version of question paper is able to do well. And what I have learned is this special children make us learn things better. We learn from them, they make us relearn and unlearn things. And I always cannot have a benchmark for the children. Oh, this is a special child, this is what he's going to learn. No, that is a very wrong perspective of any teacher. Someday, the child will surprise you. See, I want to quote an example here. I got a child who has below average intellect. She came to me when she was in 3rd grade at the level of a primary level reader. She was only able to read CBC words. Now, proudly, I can say that she is doing her 9th NIOS in DPSBN. She is reading the question paper like, NIOS curriculum is similar to CBSE curriculum. She is reading the question paper herself, she is writing, and she is getting 30 percentage in all her subjects. That is fine, happy. She is a child, I would have not said that, okay, she is a girl who will only do this much. She cannot do that. No, we should not have that perspective of that. All children have the level of learning. And as a teacher, I cannot expect all children to get 90%. The miracle of a teacher is children, I should be in a level to help any child with disability to get 30 percentage of marks in all subjects. Hope I answered your question, Mr. Mittal.
Okay.
Yes, I'd like to add. Thank you, Jaynifer. Uh, I'd like to answer Sir's question in a specific way. I'm a science student and I've also taught science and facilitated science learning. Science and mathematics both are, when we see the process of learning, they are in the application and inference and analytic level. For the knowledge and the understanding to go to the application, inference, and the higher levels of thinking and the process of learning, the knowledge and understanding has to be stronger in those concepts. For that, we definitely need kinesthetic learning where more retention is brought in the child. And stimulation, we never know, as Jaynifer said, when the child will express or when the child will articulate its learning and understanding at a later stage. So, kinesthetic learning definitely, even during our lunch break, we saw some stalls where they were selling 3D models and also models which can add dimensions to the existing map. This is what is required at the moment. We need to bring in multisensorial teaching learning materials where every learner can have hands on experience in learning the concepts, where the knowledge, pre knowledge, can go to the next level of understanding of each and every concept in depth, its function, and the complete other functions where the teacher is describing makes sense to the child. Only then science and mathematics will have a better sense, where the child is going to either apply in real life or theoretically or hypothetically. Only when the understanding gets converted in inference and in the application level. Hope I answered it, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Uh, most of the things that both of you have said are fully meaningful, purposeful for making the curriculum accessible to our learners with visual impairment. I will talk only about visual impairment because I know little bit about that, nothing more than that I know. See, as far as mathematics and science, or for that matter, for anything, I, for one, feel that a teacher must have conviction in two things. One, that need of learning mathematics, science, or any other curricular areas, prescribed curricular areas, is the same of a child with visual impairment as for the child with vision or seeing child. If he has this conviction, then the second thing that I believe in is that he or she, that the teacher will be able to find her own method or ways for teaching that particular concept of math, science, or any subject to his or her pupil with visual impairment. I'll give you an example. The example that I'm giving you, which I still remember, is 64-year-old. 64-year. I was in class 5th. And my teacher was a low vision teacher. Some of you sitting here having 30, 40 years experience, and if he or she belongs to Bombay or Calcutta, particularly Vishwajit Da, must be knowing him. H.M. Shah. Is Vishwajit ji here? No, he is not here. Mr. H.M. Shah was my teacher. He was basically a maths teacher. He was teaching me concept of angle and triangle. Do you know how would have taught me, or how he taught me? He took my arm and used my arm as an teaching learning material to teach me the concept of an angle or a triangle. I'll demonstrate. Those who are sighted can feel it.
Yes, I.
See, this is my arm straight. Now, he asked me to keep the hand like this and then tied one string from here to here. Now tell me, from here to here, this is a triangle or not a triangle? It is a triangle or not? Yes. And this and this, these are three angles or not? Yes. One of them would be a right angle, the other two would be acute angles. And the sum of these three angles will be equal to two right angles. Am I right? Okay. Nothing he used except this. Similarly, for teaching me the circle, he just hold my hand and make these fingers like this. And he gave me a concept of, and then he took a thread and pasted it on a piece of paper like this. And then he gave me concept of circle. And he divided that circle into two parts by putting a string in between like this. And then it became the half circle, etc., etc. Similarly, using brailler, you must have heard a machine called brailler, which blind persons use for writing braille. And that brailler can very well be used to make a diagram, tactile diagram of the square, of the rectangle, and such a diagram through which a visually impaired learner can touch and prove for himself or herself that it is a rectangle and it is a square. If anybody would want, I am here till tomorrow evening. If you have brailler, I can demonstrate how he can learn that, or how a teacher can make a tactile diagram using that brailler and teach the same to our child with visual impairment. What I want to tell you is, what I want to say is that the important thing is not that he has visual impairment. Important thing that is not that the concept or the curriculum has to be done or not done. Important is whether the child should learn, and if he should learn, then he has to be taught using whatever way possible. That is very important. So I now would like to turn to another area of curriculum, how we can make it inclusive, how our children with visual impairment can participate in that curricular area, and that is games and sports. Many people say that blind children with visual impairment, when they go to regular schools, non-disabled children or seeing children take part in different games and sports activities in schools, and children with visual impairment either keep sitting in a corner of the school, or they go away back home. How we can change this scenario? How can we ensure that our learners with visual impairment also participates to the extent they can in those games and sport activities in a school? Who would like to try to answer, say something on this question?
Thank you, sir, for that question. First of all, I'll go a few steps back and would like to address the question what curriculum exactly is. So, the entire school life of a child, whether it is within the premises of a school or it is at home, it is basically a part of curriculum. More or less, entire school life is curriculum. So I really appreciate and then thank you, sir, for this question, because I wanted to address this area There is nothing that a visually impaired child cannot do, which is true. Yeah, there are some things. Sorry, I stammered a little. So there are some things which we think they cannot do, but if we make some adaptations, then definitely there are ways in which we can make them participate in almost all the activities, be it games, sports, trips, uh, celebrations, or academics. So I would like to add a few things. Firstly, we have discussed what curriculum is, and now we need to understand what special needs are. So I will be talking about visual impairment mostly, but special needs also includes children with other disabilities. It also includes the ones having socio-emotional challenges, the ones having single parents, the ones who are coming from economically weaker sections, the ones who are coming from red light areas, the ones who are first generational learners. So all these children fall in the category of special needs, and we really need to be considerate towards their needs and their challenges in an inclusive setup. So we need to be considerate about all of this. If we come to visual impairment, there are different senses, as sir mentioned earlier: kinesthetic sense, olfactory sense, auditory sense, and to some extent we can also use the sense of taste, and we can make them participate in different activities. We need to work on expanded core curriculum, especially orientation and mobility. Then we are having nine components, out of which most of them we have covered within Ananya curriculum of Ek Kadam Aur, and orientation and mobility skills. So we really need to work on all of this, and we should encourage the child to be independent as much as possible, without being scared of them like getting any injuries and stuff, because everybody gets some or the other injuries here and there. Chote mote wounds aate hai sabke. Sorry for my language switching thing. So everybody gets injured in the childhood, and it's part of growing. So we should not be scared. We should neither put the blind or the visually impaired child on a pedestal, nor make them feel extremely marginalized. We should just treat them just alike. We should just treat them alike, so that there is no differentiation, and other kids can do the same only if we are doing it, because students learn from their elders. I hope I answered the question, and most of these questions are addressed in the book we just launched, and I would really request all of you to go through it if possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe and I hope that these questions would have been answered in that book that you have published today. And I'll be very happy if teachers make use of that book to the maximum possible extent, and they get access to that book as early as possible. Number one. Another thing about the curriculum, I feel that examination is also an area where we have to see whether visual impairment creates any problem for our learners, because in an inclusive school or special schools, the examination papers, question papers are by and large the same. By and large, what exactly the same for our children with visual impairment. What adaptations do you think would need to be made or allowed in those examination papers for our learners with visual impairment? Firstly, whether do we need any adaptation change or not? Secondly, if we do need, then what kind of changes?
Yeah, definitely. Sir, I would like to take up this question.
Yeah, please.
So, children with visual impairment, of course, there are certain exemptions given by the board. As I said earlier, for children with visual impairment, the question paper itself is, especially the picture-based questions are changed both in math and in science. And in SST also, they do not need to do the map work. So that exemption is provided. And there are other support also provided by the board, that is the scribe support. And this is about visual impairment. When you take children with ASD, there are a lot of exemptions provided to them also, not only visual impairment, for different categories, different types of exemptions are also given. And when we talk about assessments and is adaptations, you see, there are like projects according to the need and interest of the child that can be considered, and ongoing assessments that really helps children with memory issues. Like short term, like the teacher can announce in the class and she can take up a small assessment. So where there is a chance for all children to perform well, and something like, that interests the child. We know the abilities of the child, we assess the child according to the interest. And there is one more concept of holistic progress report card is coming up, which doesn't see the child with scores. It assesses the holistic development of the child. That helps us to know the exact, exact development of each and every child. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, just one thing I would like to add.
Please.
We don't need to attempt the map-based questions, but I would request all the teachers present here listening to me to develop the understanding of map to visually impaired children, which is not very difficult, as tactile maps are already available with different organizations. Or if you cannot reach out to them, you can create them on your own. You can use the material that is available to you, affordable to you, and you can simply take up the map available for sighted peers, and you can emboss it for the visually impaired children using different grains, maybe threads, or any other thing you feel like. So please develop this concept as well, because it is equally important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. About this examination issue, I would like to say one thing more. You all will have to tell me whether do you agree with me or not. And if not, why? And if you agree, then why? See, in many questions, we have two parts. One is theory, the other is practical. I, for one, would say that if a child with visual impairment is able to express correctly or describe the theoretical aspect, he or she should not be forced to answer the practical part also. And he should get the same amount of number of marks for both theory and practical, even if he or she is not answering the practical part. Because you will be able to answer practical only if you know theory. If you do not know theory, then or if you do not know the process, you will not be able to answer the practical. If process one knows, which I consider is more important than actually doing the practical. So we should try to impress upon our boards of examinations, whether CBSE or state boards of education, that our children with visual impairment should be permitted to describe the process as accurately as possible using appropriate terminology and words, so that the reader may understand whether he knows the concept of an angle or right angle or sum of two angles, three angles of a triangle is equal to two right angles, etc., etc. Okay, so tell you all three of you have to tell
Yes, sir.
whether you
Yes, sir.
agree
We
with
all-
this,
We all agree with that.
and if you
And-
agree,
yes.
then all of us
Yeah.
should take a resolution in this conference that we will make all our efforts, possible efforts, to impress upon our boards of education, whether CBSE or state boards, to give this facility to our learners with visual impairment. Friends, I'll tell you, why this question of math in the morning sessions, first session, Dr. Omyoji said about that people are not interested in taking mathematics and science. Can you tell me, can anybody from the audience or here tell me what is the reason for that? Or even Dr. Homyo, can you tell me the reason? No, certainly not, sir, certainly not. No, certainly not that also. I will tell you the reason. The simple reason is that in late 50s, it was written to the boards by NGOs of that time and by some government officials that our blind people cannot learn maths and science, therefore they should be given exemption. And that exemption started at that time, which continued till date. Aaj bhi hai. Even today it is there. And if any school tries to make it compulsory, to make it compulsory for his pupils to opt maths and science, learn maths and science, you know what will happen? The fellow teachers will instigate the pupils, the parents of the pupils, कि इस सब्जेक्ट को ये पढ़ेगा, marks इसके कम आएंगे, and he will not be able to get admission in better school colleges after that. Better take music, better take this, better take that. And the result is that pupils get instigated and then they make halla gulla in the schools, and then the maths teacher, the teacher succeeds in avoiding teaching maths, making efforts to teach maths to children with visual impairment. I have myself seen I've seen this personally. That is why I'm saying this. And in those days, when it was said, I don't say that it was wrongly done at that time. It was right at that time because there were no facilities. Hardly there was any tailor frame available. Hardly there was any abacus at that time. Hardly there was any tactile geometry kit. Nothing was there at that time. And for that time, this request for exemption was justified to an extent. But today, we have all the facilities. We have abacus, we have tailor frame, tactile geometry kit, tactile learning material also, and training also. Even Government of India took several initiatives to prepare teachers teaching mathematics, give in-service training in teaching maths and science to children with visual impairment for our teachers. But because if you want to teach, you will have to make efforts. Without efforts, you cannot. And we don't want. So I have from very recently started advocating that attitudinal change is essential. And that attitudinal change cannot be brought about by simply theory. It needs motivation. It needs incentive. Therefore, what I feel is that we should also resolve to request state governments, central government, to give some kind of incentive to maths and science teachers for teaching maths to children with visual impairment. Once they start getting some incentive, they will make efforts and our visually impaired children will then learn maths and science. That is one way of promoting teaching, learning maths and science for our visually impaired children in our schools. This is my personal feeling, personal suggestion, which I would like to make in this conference, so far as this maths and science is concerned. Now, Dr. Omyo, do you agree with me?
Absolutely. We are bearing the fruits of somebody who made a decision long time back.
Pardon?
We are bearing the fruits of somebody who made a decision long time back.
Of course.
Sir, not necessary, sir. Excuse me.
Yes.
In 1980s itself, I am Dr. Paul Mutta.
Yeah, I know.
So 1980s itself, we were tested like laboratories to study science and maths in 1981-82 onwards. So it was not that the government was forcing, but it was the attitude of the schools that were forcing these children to do history and political science instead of science and maths. Not necessarily that children were not interested.
That is what I said. It is not the children who were not interested. The problem was with the teachers. I won't say system
agree.
also. I won't say system. Simply teachers. Because they don't want to make any effort. And those teachers will not say they will not teach because they are employed, they have to teach. But what they will do is they will instigate parents. They will instigate
No, sir.
children.
Sorry to interrupt you. Now it is children who take a stand to study science or math. Okay? Visually impaired students also, if they have an interest to math and to science, they take up. They want to do it, they do it. They take it as a challenge and they study it. One of my student who is low vision is doing math today. He loves math. Shantala is here. Ah, yes. She was the one who was training the child to do math. So it is the stand of the child today, okay? Not the teachers or the parents.
And
It is
lastly-
not.
Yeah,
sorry,
please.
sorry to interrupt you.
No,
You can-
please. Get.
So I think we cannot blame any single person. We cannot blame NGOs alone. We cannot blame the students. We cannot blame the parents. We cannot blame the teachers. We cannot blame the government because everybody is a victim and everybody is the culprit at the same time. So
No,
yeah.
see, I
So
fully
what
agree
I'm
with
trying
that.
to say is that the biggest challenge we face while talking about curricular adaptation or while actually adapting the curriculum is the mindset. And if we actually start changing it, which will happen gradually, it cannot happen in a single day. So if we start working on the mindset, we can eventually solve all the problems. So that's what I had to say, and I think now we are running out of time. And
friends,
I should.
See, Mr. Paul, I never said that. If you remember, just now I mentioned 5 minutes or 10 minutes back that we should not insist upon the practical. We should insist upon describing the process. And there should be no problem, no hesitation, difficulty in describing the process of making steel. Okay? I'm not saying the force a child to do practical. Okay, now we will conclude this. And why I said I never want to blame anybody for that. I simply wanted to impress upon here is that we should take some measures to make the attitude of our teachers positive towards teaching maths and science to all children with visual impairment. And that attitudinal change can be brought about by certain incentives, motivation to our teachers. Because our teachers are habitual of not teaching. Therefore, if we want to force them to teach, by coercion we will not be able to do that. By incentive we will definitely be able to do. Therefore, I said we should think of that. So with this, I conclude this. And if anybody has any question, you may ask. Otherwise, we'll close this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to summarize what we all discussed in just a few seconds. All this reform, adaptation, curriculum, all this will add more meaning when we have a fair evaluation like Pratibha ma'am and others expressed in the morning, where evaluation should happen in everyday classroom, not just at the end of the term or end of the curricular year. Everyday learning in everyday classroom, that's what I began with calling it as a pomegranate, where the objective and the outcome should be the same for all the children in the classroom, but children should be compartmentalized like how naturally the grains are compartmentalized in a pomegranate. The needs of every child, if you're teaching the same concept for a visually impaired, bring in those tactile materials, hands-on materials, or change the pattern of evaluation for that child. Need not be a descriptive, need not be a practical. If we can bring a hypothetical, higher order thinking type of a evaluation, then the learning process, the curriculum reformation, adaptation, everything can happen. So let's bring this holistic learning in practice. Thank you.
So thank you very much. With this,
We thank all the members of this panel for the engaging discussion that highlighted the significance of curriculum reform for inclusive education. Pallavi Kaushik and Varsha Mishra to please present the Ek Kadam token of gratitude and remembrance to our panelists.